I think I'm on. All right, so it's here. Well, thank you so much for that introduction. And yeah, it's true. That's why I'm here. I'm going to give you my presentation. It's a little bit of a travel channel special on Everest Base Camp trekking, hopefully with a take-home message. If anybody has any questions, it'll be my pleasure to answer at the end. So don't look down is what I was thinking at this moment while we were on our way to base camp and I was on this rock. You don't see it behind me, but there's a pretty steep cliff there. And I was thinking, don't look down, don't look down, don't look down. So of course, what I did, I looked down and, but I didn't fall. But I was, I was thinking on that rock, like, how did I get here? How is it that I'm really here? This is not a movie. This is not a Wikipedia picture. This is really me and it's my life. And when I got back home, everybody was asking me like, oh, wow, this must have been a life-changing experience, or like, oh, wow, is this something that you've always wanted to do? And I was like, no, I never thought of Everest until I saw Joni's post. And so I dug a little bit deeper than the superficial, wonderful experience that it was. And I figured out that, yes, I did learn some things and was made aware of things that I didn't realize right away. So the first thing is listen, and the world will speak to you. So it sounds a little bit ubu-jubu, listen to the universe, there's messages out there. But truly, I believe that there are opportunities out there, there are messages out there, and you just need to be aware and listen. I read a little bit on coincidences and serendipity, and some people, some scientists really do believe that something exists, and others absolutely don't. They say you will find messages when you're looking for them in periods of anxiety or in periods where you're looking for an answer. In difficult periods, you're going to be looking for hope. But some really do believe that there's no such thing as coincidences and something is guiding us. And I really do believe that, as Joni doesn't know how to post, I'm never on Facebook. This is not something I do. And that day when I was scrolling and saw her message, it's like a light bulb went off in my head. It's like I knew there was a reason that I was seeing this, and I believe that there was. So be aware, listen to the messages, and you may get a little bit more out of life. Another message or a lesson that I think is important is never miss an opportunity to expand your life experience. If we saw something this morning, is that life is very short. And as much as I love my life, I live a charmed life. I have everything I need. I have more than I could ever want. I have family, friends, a job, a roof over my head, a dog. I have everything I need, but there's always ways to make that experience larger, bigger, better for you. That means a different experience for everyone. It could mean learning a new skill, an instrument, learning how to bake. It could mean learning a language or making a new friend or doing a new activity with your grandchildren that you've never done before. Expanding your experience is different for everyone. For me, it meant flying to Nepal. So literally halfway across the world, I knew nothing about this country other than the pictures that I found online. I knew nothing about Nepal or Everest or trekking for that matter. So Nepal, in my research, in expanding my experience, I learned that it was a very small country, but what struck me is that it's a country of contrast. You have the tropical jungles near India, and then you have the tallest, coldest mountain on earth with Everest. You have the super busy, polluted cities like Kathmandu, and then you have absolute pristine nature right next to it. You have a contrast in religions. I was absolutely struck by how you could have the Buddhist stupa next to the Hindu temple, and they get along perfectly, and there's no fighting and there's no wars. They just coexist. So I found Nepal very interesting in that matter. I read up a little bit more on Everest. I knew that it was the tallest peak on Earth, but had no idea it was 29 something thousand feet high. That's as high as our planes fly. When you're taking the plane, it's 35,000 feet. So, you know, the top of Everest is where the planes fly. It's incredibly, incredibly high. At the summit, there's only 7% oxygen, and that's why they call it the death zone. It's an extremely dangerous place to be. At the beginning, very few people would make it to the top. Very few people would even attempt it. But in the past 20 years, it's become more and more popular. Now over 6,000 people have made it to the top, but only 700 women, so 12%. It's a very low number, which made me want to go even more and want to have our Survivor Summit even more. I found out that the trek is very different from the climb. So the trek that we did was about 65 kilometers. I don't know how much that is in miles, sorry. And the climb is about 20 kilometers, but extremely different experience. For us, it was more of a walk, of a trek, and for the climbers, it can be life-threatening. It's climbing ice mountains. It can be very dangerous and a completely different experience. I was sort of wondering when we left if it would give me the motivation to go and do the climb. I can guarantee you that absolutely not. Never will I ever attempt that. Completely different ballgame, and they have all my admiration. All right, so we're always told to expect the unexpected, right? That's the saying. We know that challenges will arise. We know that there will be problems. We know that there will be unexpected events. What's difficult is to accept the unexpected, accept those bumps in the road that are thrown at us and that we don't really know how to handle. That's the hard part. So as I was starting to train, my full training to do this trek that I didn't know how to train for, by the way, we'll get back to that. I got hit with, probably the worst illness I ever got, which is nothing compared to our cancer survivors, but I got a massive herniated disc right in the middle of my training, right in January when we were leaving in March. So that almost completely stopped my training. Everyone was telling me to cancel my trip. And by everyone, I mean family, friends, coworkers, doctors, everyone, my physiotherapist. But for me, giving up was the last resort. I wanted to see how far I could get. I wanted to see how much progress I could do and sort of take it one day at a time. That was my attitude. That was how I learned to accept this unexpected event. So after months of preparation and learning about hiking and getting ready with the equipment and definitely not enough training, it was time to go. And I had decided to go with the mindset of it's possible that I won't be able to make it. But I wanted to try. So lots of traveling. It's even further than Alaska. So I arrived in Kathmandu from the Canadian winter to plus 30 degrees, well, Celsius. It was definitely different from home. We spent a few days in Kathmandu, and then in order to start the trek, we had to get there. The only way to get to the mountain is to fly there. I believe there are probably ways to hike up, but that would add too many days. So you have to fly to Lukla, the most dangerous airport in the world. You can fly by plane or by helicopter, and I was one of the lucky ones that got to take the most dangerous plane in the world. So that was interesting, but we made it. All right, one of the other lessons or take-home messages from my trip was to lead by example. And by leading by example, you don't have to be a leader to lead, if that makes sense. You don't have to be a boss or a chief or you don't have to be the head of the organization to lead. You lead by example. You behave how you would like others around you to behave. And that's sort of my attitude. I found this trek, this experience extremely challenging. It was very difficult. I was exhausted. It was nothing like I had ever done before, but I really tried to keep my chin up, keep a smile on my face, not complain too much, not swear too much, and try to help others when I could. And that's about it. So I think I tried to behave like I would want others around me to behave. And that is a lesson to take back home and to do in my everyday life. A little side note was to find beauty in simplicity. And I think this is something that we can apply every day. I think it's especially important to apply this when you are traveling. If you expect the same things as home, if you want the same comforts as home, you should stay home. If you travel to another country, you should learn to appreciate how they live, how they are, their customs, just their way of life. And Nepal, we had extremely proud people who took care of their land, who took care of their clothes, but it was much simpler than what I'm used to in Canada. And I found that absolutely beautiful. We had very long days of trekking. We were starting early in the morning and finishing when the sun was coming down, and very short nights, but it was always fun. The whole way along the way was always fun. In the nights, we would gather around the tea houses for supper. Usually that's the only room that was heated with a wood or a dung fireplace. And then we'd go back to our rooms. The tea houses are very simple, sort of like a bed and breakfast kind of thing. They're usually family owned and operated. And some of them had bathrooms, most of them did not. And very simple accommodations. Slept like a baby every single night. It was the best sleep I ever got. I learned to appreciate nature. It was my first time that I got to spend 2 weeks straight in nature. So that was very interesting. The first few days, beautiful scenery, beautiful trees and grass and flowers. But then it started to change. So in my head, a hike was like a beaten path, and I was not expecting this. So expect and accept the unexpected. This was unexpected to me. I had no idea. And I remember on one of our Zoom calls, we were told, oh, it's like going up 400 sets of stairs in a day. But I didn't know there were literally stairs. So we went up so many stairs every single day. And this was only day 2. So I was very happy at the end of day 2 to finally get to Namche. It was the best feeling ever. That was a tough day, day 2. But Namche, beautiful. And we got to stay there one day to rest. And what do we do on a rest day when we trek Everest? We go hiking. So on our rest day, we went up a little mountain next to Namche, and it was our first glimpse of Everest. I had tears in my eyes. this was really Everest for real that I was seeing with my own eyes. It was not a picture or a video on YouTube. It was really Everest for real. So very happy. A very jumpy any mountain pose here with my new friends. All right, the other lesson is to be their voice. I think my whole experience was increased, was made better by having a good cause behind this. This was not just a trip that I organized and paid for. It was, I had a mission. So it made everything so much better to be there for these ladies, to bring them to base camp, to accompany them. It made it that much better. The real reason behind the adventure is to raise awareness for ovarian cancer, raise funds for ovarian cancer. It is not one of the most popular cancers. We don't have the pink ribbons and we don't have the Movember. It's a very small proportion of the population, 1 to 2% of women. So to be there and to raise awareness for these ladies, absolutely worth it. We were not alone. We had a whole crew around us, so lots of fun. Good people. All right, another message, find your limits, recognize them, and respect them. So when I started out, I knew very well that I had limits, and I decided to go anyway. But every day I was consciously deciding, okay, today, did I reach my limit? Is this too much? This is not a place to say, to do anything dangerous, to go beyond what your body or your mind is capable of. It's absolutely okay to know yourself, know your limits, recognize them, and respect them. So every day I was looking inside myself. No, today I'm good. Okay, keep going. The first picture is just, sometimes I think I reached my limit, but you know, we made it. That was around lunchtime that I took that picture. So we had already been walking for 4 or 5 hours. And then as a joke, I sort of said, oh, look, there's a trail on that mountain. Wouldn't it be funny if we go up there? And that's where we were going. We were going way up there. So we had to go down that valley and back up that other mountain. And the arrow is pointing to where we slept that night. It was a joke. It was a joke, guys, but still. So you think that like there's no way I'm getting there? Yeah, 4 or 5 hours later, that's where we were. And it was made better by seeing yaks for the first time. So I was happy. Journey continues. As you see, the scenery is changing. There's no more trees and flowers. It's getting a little bit more dry and bushes. And we just kept walking. As you can see right now, we're walking on glaciers. And it's starting to look like we are on the moon. There's no more trees, no more greenery, nothing. It's empty, it's just rocks. This is the first time we actually see Everest Base Camp. So we knew, hey, that's where we're going. And when we took that picture, it's another day and a half of walking to get to base camp. So it's so close, but it's so far away. So that night, we ended up trekking to Gorak Shep, the name that shall not be named. It's like Voldemort, Gorak Shep. It was an interesting place to be that I don't necessarily want to go ever again. We were very, very close to our goal. And then right before we were making that last push to get to base camp, tragedy strikes. So the day before we were to arrive, 3 of our own of our company, Imagine Nepal, unfortunately died in an avalanche. We learned that news when we got to Gorak Shep, and everybody was pretty shook. The Sherpa community is a very tight-knit family. People think that Sherpa is a job. It is not a job. You have porters and you have hikers. leaders, but Sherpa is a family name. It's a last name. And they're almost all family, and they're almost all connected in some way. So losing 3 of their family members in a tragic event everybody was shook. Out of respect, we initially took that decision to not go to base camp and to let them grieve, which was absolutely valid. We were all disappointed, of course, but this is much bigger than our little trek. And eventually, as the day went on, we got word that they wanted us to go, and they were proud of what they had set up for us. And it was, they wanted us there with them, despite this tragedy. So I was extremely grateful for that opportunity, and we did it with respect. I think we did a great job, enjoying our success and at the same time being respectful to them. So it was day 13. After all of that hiking and trekking and lots of little steps and deep breaths and shallow breaths, we arrived at base camp. And I was so happy and so relieved, and I never thought I would get there, honestly. I remember when we started the trek, it was Mary Beth who told me, and she said, oh, you know, at the end, when we get to the top, you're going to be taking 1 step for 2 breaths. And I was like, oh, haha, no, it's true. So you took 1 little step and you needed almost 2 breaths to make the next step. So that was, it was a triumph to get there, to get to the top. And we had a great time. They were the most amazing hosts. It was so comfortable. Strange to say it was comfortable to sleep in a tent at -30, but it was great food, great accommodations, and we were just so happy to be there. So that was my little triumph to get to base camp. But if you remember, there's a bigger purpose and there was a bigger reason. So we dropped off our 2 colleagues. We went back, but they stayed to try to summit Mount Everest. So this was day 13, and we got news on day 44. It took that many weeks for finally Jess to summit. She was so ready. As soon as the lines were laid, the next day she was right up there, and she was so ready, and I'm very happy for her. The experience is made doubly special by the fact that she summited on Mother's Day. So ovarian cancer, the disease that takes away so many women's possibility to become biological mothers, she was there on Mother's Day. So in the end, find your true compass, find what makes your heart skip a beat, find what makes you tick, and go for it. And like I said in the beginning, it's different for everyone, and it's okay. And for me, it's finding new friends and traveling the world with them. And for you, it can be something completely different, but find what makes your heart happy, and that's the direction you should go. Find your true compass. Thank you.
Carol, that was beautiful. Just stay up there for a second. I'm going to see, does anyone have any questions for Dr. Williams before we move on? We have time for just a few. Yes. I'm going to have you talk into here because we are online as well.
I'm wondering how your back did.
It was okay. It was not ideal. I don't recommend anybody with a recent herniated disc to climb Mount Everest. Not medical advice, but honestly, things I thought were going to be hurdles, things I thought were going to be difficult, went well. And then I found whole new different problems that I had to deal with. So yeah, expect and accept the unexpected. My back was fine.
Okay.
What was it like coming down from base camp? And was it emotional or physically different?
I didn't talk a lot about coming down. It was, it was all fun. It was all good. It was all great. Coming down, we had a helicopter ride, and then we got to spend a few days in Kathmandu with our new friends again. So that was good. People always ask me what's the best part of Everest, and for me, the best part was these 20 new friends that I made. So it was hard to let them go. It was hard to see them off and not know if I was going to see them ever again. So that part of coming down was hard, but it was all okay. I missed my family. I missed my friends. It was time to go back to my normal life. Climbing Mount Everest is not normal. It's not normal life.
All right. Thank you so much. That was beautifully.